for 12 years, at least what's left of it. He evacuated but returned to find a home no longer livable, savaged by nature.
It's my home. I have to try and save it.
Even more are determined to save lives, get people out of Barbuda, save the people who seem to have lost it all. It's hard to imagine that an island now rubble, an island home to nearly 2,000 residents, could get any worse than it already is. But the Prime Minister has said 95% of the buildings are damaged, and it will be quite the rebuilding effort. More than $100 million to get this the way it once was. Barbuda looks like a war zone.
Like a war zone. Everything is blown up.
This is the wrath of Irma, now on the move. Irma has shown her strength, the reason so many fear what is headed to Florida. Leila Santiago, CNN, Barbuda.
And you can just see their devastation beyond belief in Barbuda and St. Martin. Issa, let's take it back to you there in Miami. Of course, now the storm headed to where you are in Florida, and you know, this is a state of 20 million people, and you know, and millions have been told basically get out.
Being told to get out, and what we're seeing is what looks like a mass exodus. The National Weather Service, this is what they tweeted at 5 o'clock, if we can bring the tweet up. This is what they said. This is as real as it gets. Nowhere in the Florida Keys will be safe. You will have time. You still have time to evacuate. That was at 5 o'clock, Michael. Officials now saying, look, if you're leaving it this late, you shouldn't be leaving. You should be going and seeking shelter. The more than 30 or so shelters they have set up in place in Miami. Of course, officials keep on saying and just telling people very clearly, we can rebuild your houses. We cannot rebuild your lives, and really trying to drive home that message for people to take this very, very seriously. Now, I want to show you some images that we have got from the U.S. Air Force Reserve Hurricane Hunters. They basically, what they do is they fly above and around hurricanes to take atmospheric readings, and that gives you a bird's eye view of what you're looking at of Hurricane Irma, the tremendous size of Hurricane Irma, not just in its breadth, but also in its length. Let's bring in our Derek Van Dam. He's joining us now from Miami Beach. And Derek, you know, we've been talking so much about the storm surge, and as I'm talking to you, I'm starting to see lightning. I'm sure you're seeing it too. Talk to us about the significance of that storm surge.
Yeah, I know you're close to where I'm located as well, Issa, but the storm surge here, what we would anticipate, 5 to 10 feet, that is inundation. That's not above normal tide levels. We're talking about inundation. We're in Miami-Dade, of course, right in the South Beach area. And that's really a major concern. It's really only about 100 meters to my left here where the beach begins. And it's incredible just how quickly downhill the weather conditions actually turn. Just about 15 to 20 minutes ago, I know Issa felt the same thing I did. A first rain band from Irma that made its way to the shoreline, and the temperature literally dropped 10, 15 degrees Fahrenheit in a matter of 60 seconds. It's almost as if the water vapor in the air was completely taken away. It just changed on an instant. So if we're feeling the winds pick up to 35 miles per hour, roughly 50 kilometers per hour, that quickly with some of the outer bands of this storm, you can imagine really what's to come. Now, what's new in the past hour or so is the National Weather Service has extended the hurricane warnings up the west coast of the Florida Panhandle, or excuse me, the Florida Peninsula, and the east coast of the Florida Peninsula. So it's basically to Brevard County on the east coast, and it's basically just to the north of Tampa on the west coast. So really, none of the state will be spared from hurricane force conditions. We've been talking about the sheer size of Irma. We know it covers nearly 70,000 square miles. And the entire state of Florida alone is 65,000 square miles. So you don't need to be a mathematician to figure out what that means.
No, you don't need to be a mathematician. You just need to look at the size of it, at the scale of it, and compare it to previous hurricanes to really get a sense of how big it is and how seriously we all should be taking it. But let me ask you this, Derek. I mean, we've been looking at really in Miami, and it's peppered with these high-rise buildings, very modern buildings. When you're talking about the storm surge, I mean, how safe are some of these buildings? We've heard officials basically saying, you know, you should be getting out, you should be seeking shelter, regardless of whether you think your building is safe or not. Put that in perspective for us.
Well, a lot of these high-rise buildings, Isa, are built with some of the parking garages as the first few levels. And then it's really where the apartments and the businesses are located on the higher levels of the building. So in terms of storm surge, of course, the high rises may be spared from the worst of the flooding because it would flood, let's say, the parking garages below. But the wind would be the factor here that we would be concerned about. There's this phenomenon known as the canyon effect that occurs within these buildings. So when the wind literally gets squeezed between two objects, like two high-rise buildings, it accelerates and becomes stronger. And so it's very easy to see wind gusts in between these buildings spike above 100 miles per hour, even if just outside of the densely clustered area of high-rises, it's only 80 miles per hour, for instance. Plus, Isa, when you go up in elevation, that's where you find stronger winds. So I believe it's somewhere between 20 to 30% stronger each 10 floors you rise. So that just kind of puts it in perspective. You may even feel in a 40-story building, the building actually starting to sway because of these Category 3, 4, 5 type winds.
Yeah, so very important for people to be heeding the warning and the advice coming from authorities. Derek Van Dam, thanks very much. We'll be touching base with you throughout the hour. And Michael, that is why we have seen police here in Miami going door to door, just really loudspeakers telling people, please evacuate, please leave, seek shelter. Perhaps it may be too late now to get in your car and to drive, given those long lines of, that we've seen the motorways, bumper to bumper. One person basically saying a journey that would have taken something like 2 hours is taking as long as 9 hours, Michael.
Yeah, sitting in that traffic, going absolutely nowhere. And Isa, it's extraordinary to seeing the numbers that were up on the screen there. 5.6 million Floridians have been told to get out. They're under some sort of evacuation order. That is more than a quarter of the population. 5.5 million people being told to leave. Absolutely amazing. We'll check in with you a little bit later as well. Meanwhile, we're going to take a short break. When we come back here on the program, despite every dire warning, as Isa's been saying, some of those Florida residents, they want to wait out the storm. We're going to hear why they're refusing to leave. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
Fries for 316, please. Thank you.
David, what's going on? Oh, hey. That's it? Yeah. Everybody, 2 seconds.
Dear Sebastian, after careful consideration of your application, it is with great pleasure that we offer our congratulations on your acceptance.
Through the Tuition Assistance Program, every day, McDonald's helps more people go to college. It's part of our commitment to being America's best first job.
What started as a passion to make something original has grown into an enterprise. That's why I switched to the Spark Cash Card from Capital One. Now I'm earning unlimited 2% cash back on every purchase I make. Everything. Which adds up to thousands of dollars back every year and helps keep my passion growing in every direction. What's in your wallet?
We just got to take it one game at a time. Next question.